Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Virtuous Client Training Webinar. I'm just going to give everybody a minute to make sure that everybody's connected to the Zoom here. I know it always takes a minute to get us going. All right. Looks like everybody's getting filed in, at least for the most part. So we'll go ahead and start chatting. We'll give everybody a chance to get settled because, as always, we have a little bit of business to see to first. So first off, again, welcome to the September edition. I can't believe it's September already. In some ways, I can't believe it's only September. Tracking custom data effectively. What an exciting title. But the truth is, this is really vital to being able to connect with your constituents in a meaningful way. I mean, this really does have a big impact downstream. Okay, so that's what we want to talk about today. Before we get started, of course, though, just wanted to go over a few quick things. First off, today's presentation is being recorded. And so we will make this available, as we do with all of the recordings of our webinars, on the Training Academy page. You can go and view that recording. That'll be available tomorrow if you want to share it with your team, because we do want to get a good recording. Everyone has been muted. I know that the world is getting used to being on Zoom 24/7, but we still want to minimize any interruptions. That said, we do encourage questions, and those of you who have been on several of these webinars know by now I love questions. Please just go ahead and use that Q&A feature. You'll see the Q&A box there. You can type in your question. If it comes up during the session, that's fine. Send it in as soon as it comes to mind. If you have a question, someone else probably does too. And we'll hold on to those questions and we'll address those when we get, excuse me, towards the end to the Q&A portion for today. But please send them in as they come up. That is important. Okay. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Scott Richards. I am the Director of Training and Education here at Virtuous. Excited once again to be talking to you about some of the great features that we've got in Virtuous. As usual, I say this all the time, but we do have a chock-a-block agenda for today because we've got some cool new features that we want to look at, and we want to dive into our featured content, right? The release that just happened this week had two really big features. The Gift Ask Pipeline is one, and of course, the ability to see an expanded gallery of workflow templates. We'll look at both of those. And then we're going to spend some time talking about how to store your data. What's the decision-making process that you want to go through before you jump in and start deciding on the best place to store some of your data in Virtuous. And then we'll look at some actual examples and some tips for setting that up. We'll have our time for some questions and we'll wrap things up for another month. Excuse me, I needed to sneak some water or this was going to be a long call. Okay. So first off, we do want to look at some of those latest features. And like I said, one of the big ones is that Gift Ask pipeline. It's pretty cool. So gift asks have been around for a while now in Virtuous. And as a matter of fact, you could go to the gifts screen in Virtuous, and there, the tabs across the top, you have gift asks. And up until now, this was really one of the only ways to get a high-level view of all of your gift asks, including for good old Jean Valjean here. And you could see them by status, and you could even come in and you could filter by status. And those status values were values that you could customize, but that was about it. Right? That was really the sum total here for your gift asks. But now we've come out with this new pipeline view. And that pipeline view defaults to being filtered for the current user, in this case, me, and for the current fiscal year. That's based on your fiscal year settings. And when we say current fiscal year, that is talking about the ask date. Okay, now I'm going to clear some of these. I have some gift asks in here that are all over the map. And that'll fill some more of that in. Now, if you would like to filter this differently, you can add additional filter criteria yourself. So if you would like to filter this instead based on the project, right? If you would like to filter this based on the status, if you'd like to filter this based on the expected fulfillment date, So not the date that I made or logged the ask, but when am I expecting that to come in? You can go ahead and do that too. That's entirely up to you. And this is my pipeline view. Now, my pipeline view happens to look a little bit more fleshed out already, because what happens is we're going to take all of the status values, no good way to say it. We're going to take all those status values that you have, and we're going to convert those into columns on this board here, right? So each of these columns, proposal sent, proposal review, new proposal needed, etc. These are all gift ask statuses that I already had set up in Virtuous. So you may only have unspecified and one other status. Who knows? So when you first came in to look at this, say on Tuesday morning, it may have looked a little bit less fleshed out than what you saw in some of the screenshots, or even what you see, you can see right now. We've also changed the way that you're going to manage your gift ask statuses. Okay, so if you did want to customize those statuses, previously you could do that from the settings menu. Now you would do that here from the actions drop down in the upper right. You'll go to pipeline settings, and that's where you can manage all of these different statuses. Okay, and by using the grab handles here, I can grab them and drag them. So if I want to reorder these, that'll reorder the column layout on the pipeline. And then I can come in and I can edit any one of these status values if I wanted to. So I could come in here and I could change the name, give it a little description. And then the new pieces that we've added are this probability to close and the closure state. Now the probability to close says, hey, what's the likelihood that you think this ask will be successful? And largely that is based on stage, right? If I'm at initial solicitation, I don't really have a good feel for it. I don't want to kind of over count this or over promise this. I might say, look, this is just the start of this process. That's going to be at 10% probability to close. And I can set those values for each of my statuses. Okay. Now, if you just come in and do that, okay, then I click on Update Settings. You're going to get this error message. And some of you may have already gotten that says, hey, you've got to have at least one declined status. And that is tied to that closure state. Because we want to be able to know, hey, which of these statuses means that thumbs up, they gave, which one of these means they're not going to give, not going to happen. Right? And we need to assign that decline status. And so here on proposal rejected, maybe I could say, hey, that means it's declined. And maybe on proposal accepted, I can say that means this closed, meaning we won it, we got it, they're giving the money, we're good to go. And I could save those here, right? And then I could update my settings. Great. Now that I've done that, I only set a probability to close for my initial solicitation. That's the only one I assigned it to. And you notice now I've got the little green bar here that shows me the probability to close on those. And now it's giving me my total. And when you hover here, it'll tell you that's the weighted total. So based on the probability to close, what's the amount versus the actual amount of all the asks in this column. And as I set that probability, I'm going to see those totals at the top of each of these columns so that I can get a feel for how much is sitting in the pipeline, right? How much is in there? What's going on? Now over here, you can see I've got this full green bar for this particular ask, and I've got a total up here under accepted. This is my one column. Okay, and the totals here are a little bit different. There, it's going to show me the actual gift total versus the gift ask total. Actual gift total meaning the total of actual gifts that have been linked to these asks. So this $700 ask, that has a gift that is tied to it. That came in. Great. And that's why it's in green. It's 100%. It's good to go. Okay. Now, I've actually got another environment here where I have some additional probabilities set up. And so you can see these green bars across the top, the way that they'll change. This ask, half of it's been received already. And as I shift these around, you'll see that green bar change because it's going to change the probability. Okay, so Steve goes up and down. Now, when I move Steve back over here, goes back down here. But let's say that Steve is someone that I know really well, right? He's a good friend. And even though it's at the initial interest phase, all I've done is have a first conversation with him. We haven't gotten any farther than that. So I wouldn't feel comfortable putting it at a higher status, but I do feel pretty confident about this gift. I can actually come in here, click, and edit this gift ask. And I can override the probability to close that's being inherited from the status. And it's going to tell me, hey, initial interest has a probability built in of 20%. Do you want to override that? And I could say, yeah, I feel good about this one. This is better than 50-50. This is like 75%. My buddy here is going to give that gift. And I can save that gift ask. That'll put that green line up higher. So without even looking into any of these asks, I can already see that at a glance, he's got a custom probability, right? And that'll change my weighted total up here at the top as well. Right? And you saw I just grab this card and move it around. If I want to move that up to the proposal sent stage or status, I can advance it right from there. And the really nice thing is, in addition to this cool pipeline view, you guys have seen we also added 2 new dashboard widgets so that you can keep track of the weighted totals and the actual totals for either your own gift ask pipeline or maybe the gift ask pipeline for your entire team, and see that right on the dashboard. Okay. We could spend a lot more time talking about that, and I'm sure we will, right? Even in upcoming webinars. But I just wanted to dive into some of that and also talk a little bit about why, again, it might look a little different at first glance when you come in, because you might still have some setup to do on some of those probabilities and things like that to make sure that you're really optimized to take advantage of some of these features. Okay. Now, the other big feature that we rolled out, and we rolled out a lot. I mean, that's how we roll here, right? But one of the other big features that we rolled out is our template gallery. So if I go to the automation screen, hey, there we go. I can now, instead of creating a workflow and having that choice of a couple of best practice workflows, we've expanded that. And so now you've got this gallery of templates. And this is the first launch of this gallery of templates. And this will, of course, expand and grow over time. One of the big things that I want to highlight about this is we still do have the original best practice templates in here. Year-to-date giving milestones are still there. Life-to-date giving milestones are still there, right? Donor life cycle and donor retention, they still exist. They've had a little bit of a tweak to them, but they're still there. But remember, those were all contact workflows. All of our best practice workflows were really contact-based, and they were largely based around giving. Now, we have some best practice templates that are individual workflows, like celebrating somebody's birthday. Hey, happy birthday. I want to go ahead and make sure that I send you a card, send you a note, and celebrate your birthday. Okay. We've got an event follow-up. Really ties to individuals. We've got an automation built around celebrating your volunteers when they have volunteered for a certain number of hours, not just giving milestones, but hey, how much time have you given? And even a new subscriber welcome series just for new email subscribers to help onboard those individuals. Okay, so there's some individual workflows now that you can choose from. And for example, this birthday celebration one, you could go ahead and create that. You'll see a little description on there, just like you do when you're looking at the template. You could give this a name. This could be my training birthday. Whoops. There we go. And we can create that workflow. And this will give me my birthday template. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, right? This is going to send out a postcard that says happy birthday. That'll go out a week before someone's birthday. And then on their actual birthday, it's set to send them an email that says happy birthday. Pretty easy, right? But these are some of the common workflows that, you know, it might have taken some time to figure out how to build, or if you didn't know how to build a workflow, it might give you a tough, it might be tough to start. now you've got this, and you can take these templates just like you could before, and you can modify them. So if I wanted to add some additional actions in here, if I wanted to change the way I'm recognizing someone's birthday, obviously I can do that. I can take it and I can make it my own, totally fine. Okay, and so some of them are very simple, just like this one, and some of them might be a little bit more involved, and some of them might be a little bit more, they might have a little bit more going on in terms of actions. This is the best way to say it. So for example, this new subscriber welcome series, let's say this is training new subscriber. Here we go. So that new subscriber is going to have a whole series of different tasks, emails, letters, right, and other things that are going to be included. And this also is going to include some custom fields, some tags we'll see in some of these. If you don't have those custom fields, if you don't have those tags in your system, they will be created as soon as you create that best practice workflow template. Okay, so that template will include everything that you need to make that workflow happen. The only thing I'd have to do is then go customize these emails, customize that letter, and then I can go ahead and send that. Okay. So again, two of the big features that we pushed out, I know there's tons of others that came out, including some query improvements and updates, and oh man, there's so many things that are going on. And we've even got cool things that are coming in the future. It's going to be great. But I wanted to hit those too. I've seen some questions come in on those already, which is fantastic. If anyone else has a question, if anything else comes up, please do go ahead, or if you have something that's top of mind, go ahead and send that in. Happy to address those questions as we get to the end. But I did want to make sure that we got a chance to talk about some of our featured content today as well. And I think that's kind of something that's come up as we've added some new features for being able to track custom content or some custom values. So I want to dive in on those a little bit more. Okay, where did my screen share go? Hopefully everybody can still see me here. You'd think I'd never done this before. Okay. So tracking custom data effectively. What a title. Woo! So first off, when it comes to storing custom data in Virtuous, I mean, technically speaking, almost everything you're storing is custom data, right? It's not like every one of you has the same donors with the same names and the same everything else. So custom data is kind of tricky here, right? But that custom data still falls into the same categories for most of you. You've got first name, last name, email address, phone number, gift amount, right? Gift date, they're all the same fields, even though the values are different. So when I talk about custom data, I'm talking about fields and other things that don't exist in Virtuous natively, right? Things that are not in Virtuous out of the box. Things like teacher assignment. Can you tell my kids are still doing school at home? That was the first thing I thought of, right? Or, well, technically we don't have a field for assigned solicitor, although we do have a way to track that. But some of those things are values that don't exist natively in Virtuous. That's what we're talking about when we talk about custom data, right? Hey, I have kids that are doing camp sessions with us. That's our programming. And I need to track some information about the sessions that they're participating in. I need to track who the session leader was, and I need to track which quarter of the year it was, and I need to track which of the 3 different sessions that we offer, which one it was that they participated in. Those are custom data points that are really mission critical for you, right? And they're usually kind of unique to your program or your mission, or at least to your organization. So that's what we're talking about. We talk about custom data. So when it comes to that custom data, there are a few ways to store that in Virtuous. Okay. The first one is one that comes up in migration all the time. Good old tags. Tags are customizable. We all know that, right? So you can create whatever tag values you need to be able to store your data in Virtuous. whatever it is that's specific to your organization or to your mission, you can go ahead and store that as a tag in Virtuous. So tags are one of the easy ones when it comes to custom data. You've also got custom fields. Hey, I want to create a custom field to store this custom value that I've made up. Is that the best option? Custom fields come with other choices, like where should that custom field live? Should it be in a group? What is the type of custom field? There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to custom fields. And then, of course, one of the newer additions to this whole process would be custom collections. Right? Custom collections, we've talked about it in some of our previous webinars, actually, when these rolled out. Right? They're a little bit like custom fields. They also share a little bit of DNA with contact notes, things like that, where you can enter a series of values. So maybe custom collections are the best way to go. And then, of course, and I wanted to include this in particular, projects or campaigns. And the reason I wanted to include this is because so many times I'll see something coming through that might be set up as a custom field on a gift, when really there's already a place for that data to live. It's something that should be incorporated into the project structure or into the campaign structure. And so I think immediately we tend to think this is a custom thing, it's my special thing, it's got to be a custom field. And we forget that it's something that could have a home somewhere in the native structure of Virtuous. It might not have the same name as what it had in my old system, or it might not be exactly how I was thinking about it, but maybe it is something that should live at the project or campaign level. I can't express to you how many times I have seen databases, and I'm not just talking about in Virtuous, but other CRMs all over the place, where someone will track things like gift designations or restricted giving with something like a gift note. Right? Something that's free form. I just type it in and I say they want to restrict this gift. It's only to be used for the new Performing Arts Center. And that is impossibly difficult to track, to report on, to standardize, everything else. And so something like that I might be thinking of as custom data, when really that's something that belongs in my project structure. And I should be taking that approach. Okay, so not all custom data has to fall into tag, custom field, custom collection. It might be, hey, this is a volunteer opportunity. Okay, and if you have questions about that, of course, you can reach out to the support team. That's what we're here for. This is the kind of thing that we do through the data migration process, is to talk through some of these questions. So if you're not sure, hey, what's the best way to do this? Excuse me. What's the best way to do this? That's what we're here to do. Okay. So the big thing is evaluate your needs and determine, hey, what's going to be the best fit for us, for my organization? Now, how do you determine what the best fit is? It's a little harder, right? It's not kind of like determining the best fit of a piece of clothing. You can't just say, well, here are my measurements. What's the best fit? So how do I determine what the best fit is? What are the questions I want to ask when I'm looking at this? Well, first off, what type of data is it? What do you got? Is it something that's unstructured? Is every value completely different? Right? Maiden name. Someone's maiden name. I mean, there's no structure to that. That's not a drop-down list. That's going to be different for everybody. Versus something that's a number or a value, or versus something where, hey, I've got one of 4 possible choices. It's always going to be one of those 4. And it's going to apply to every record in the database. What kind of data am I dealing with in the first place? Right? What do I have? Is it all over the map? Are some of these things like giant paragraphs of text, and some of them are just one word or a number? What is it I want to store? Some of these are very easy, right? When it comes to alumni graduation year or something like that. And some of them are a little bit more complex, but just start by looking at what data you have. And then this is, to me, the most important question is, how are we going to use this particular piece of data? What are we going to do with it? And this is what happens. This is the thing that you miss sometimes when you say, okay, I'm going to make this a note. I'm just going to take this thing, I'm going to type it into the description on every contact in my database, right? Again, storing restricted giving to, designations as notes. that seems like a neat idea, but it doesn't answer, it doesn't really keep in mind, well, how am I going to use this? I need to pull that data and report on it, and that is going to align with my chart of accounts. I don't want to do that in notes where I'm depending on someone's spelling and how good a typist they are and how they decided to phrase something and everything else. I want to standardize that. So I want that to be a value that they select. That should be a project. In other cases, again, maybe I've got one of 4 possible values for the type of donor household I have. Who knows? And I always want to be able to have one of those 4 values on a record, and I'm going to use that in segmentation. I'm going to use that when I pull my lists to do mailing. It's going to be critical then that I've got consistent values. And again, I'm not depending on someone's typing, their spelling, on how they chose to phrase something or anything else. I want it to always be consistent. Well, that tells me I want a drop down. I want a list custom field or a tag, something that's always going to be consistent. If it's going to be informational, if a gift officer is going to look at this and use that to help them understand their donors a little bit better when they are talking to them or presenting something to them, well, then it's a little bit different. Now it's a little bit, I don't need to segment on that. I just need it to be available, and I need it to be something that someone can review. It's purely informational. That can be a text custom field or a paragraph custom field or something like that. I'm not going to build an automation off of that. I'm not going to build my segmentation on top of that. I just need to be able to see it and digest it as a human being. How am I going to use it? What is it for? Not everything gets used in segmentation, and not everything gets used informationally, and some things are both. If it's both, I'd argue the segmentation piece trumps everything else, because I need to make sure I've got clean data for segmentation or for just querying in general. Okay. So what type of data do you have? How are you going to use it? Right, those are the big questions. And then after that, why are we tracking this? Now, I think this is an important question to ask, because if you say, why are we tracking this? And everybody in the organization says, I don't know. Well, then do I need to track it in the first place? Right? One of the things that drives me nuts is when people say, well, this is how we've always done it. Because that's not really an answer. Right? Is this something I need to spend time and energy on? Is this something I now need to concern myself with maintaining? Is it something that I need to make sure I've got permissions set up for and everything else? Or is this something that we're just tracking because we kind of always did and we haven't used it in years? Because if you haven't used it in years, if it's not informing any of your strategy, if it's not being used to drive automations, and you don't have any plans to do that in the future, then the conversation becomes, do we need it? Right? And if I don't need it, maybe I feel bad about getting rid of it. I don't want to throw it into the sun. But that means maybe I can store that as a contact note. It's there on the history. If I ever wanted to find it, it's there, but I don't need it at my fingertips. Right? So why am I tracking it? What's it for? It kind of relates to this, how will this be used, but goes an extra step. And then who is going to manage this thing? Who's going to be in charge of it? Is this something that gift processing is going to have to update when they're entering data? Is this something that gift officers are going to be updating when they're viewing contact records? Who's in charge of this data? So who has to have access to it? Make sure you evaluate all these options before you jump in. Make sure you can answer these questions. And then when you're looking at those 3 main options we talked about, the real custom data options, right? Your collections and tags and fields and everything else, armed with all that information, you can start to make some decisions. So with tags, for example, we know that tags apply to contacts. So if I've got a piece of information that specifically applies to individuals, and it could differ between one individual and another in the same household, I don't want it to be a tag. But if it applies to a household or an organization level, then tag is great, right? That's fantastic. That works. Tags are really handy because they're accessible in gift queries. This is why I like tags for things like communication preferences and receiving preferences, especially receiving preferences, because they're available in gift queries for me to build my receipting segmentation, right? To be able to use that receipting tool and run all of my receipts. So tags are a great way to track those communication preferences for the household, like they don't want to get mail, they only want a year-end statement, whatever it is. Okay, obviously, if it's for individuals, you're going to track that largely through email unsubscribes, things like that. And the thing about tags that's also handy is it's a one-to-many relationship, meaning one contact can have many tags. So if I've got a list of values and a record could have one or more of those values, think about the idea of a household where you've got a volunteer and you've got a donor and you've got a board member. Right? Maybe it's all the same person in that household. They're all three of those things. I want to be able to apply all three. Well, then a tag is really going to be the option for me there because I want to know that that household is a volunteer household and a donor household and a board member household. Great. They can have all of them. So tags are going to give me that one-to-many structure. Custom fields, the neat thing about custom fields, they can apply to multiple objects. I'm not limited to contacts now. Custom fields can apply to individuals to differentiate between members of an organization or a household. Custom fields also apply to things like projects and events, event invitations, right? Volunteers and all sorts of places, grants. You got custom fields up the wazoo all over the product. So sometimes if that piece of data that you have is something that specifically applies to or relates to gifts, that's going to answer your question. It should be a custom field. That's where it's got to go. I'm kind of done, right? Now, the thing about custom fields, they are a little bit more limited by query type, right? Tags, again, they're in contact queries, they're in gift queries. So they're kind of accessible there from multiple places. With custom fields, right? My event custom fields are largely my event query and my event invitation query, right? My project custom fields, project query. My contact custom fields are in contact and individual queries, right? But not in gift queries. So I'm a little bit more siloed when it comes to my custom fields. And with custom fields, you have a one-to-one relationship, right? I can have one value for this text field. And that value could have a comma and have a bunch of stuff in it, but it's going to be hard to sort all that out, query. But if I've got a date custom field, I've got a number, I've got a list custom field, all of these, I have one value for that field. That's it. So if the value is, again, donor segment, and I've got to choose board member, volunteer, or donor, I can only pick one. Right? Maybe I pick donor. I don't know in that case. Custom fields a little bit more limited there. Now, custom collections, I put those right smack in the middle because they kind of bridge this gap a little bit. Now, with custom collections, they apply only to contacts or individuals. Those are the only two objects where I can create a custom collection. The thing is, custom collections have their own designated query type because querying on them is a little bit unique in terms of how you do it. You have to choose the collection and then query. But the neat thing about custom collections is they bring back this idea of a one-to-many relationship. And they even take it a step further, right, than tags. Because custom collections can give me a one-to-many relationship to a whole series of values. That sounds like a very complicated statement. It's not. It's just a tough thing to explain. So we're going to look at it in the system. Okay, but you want to evaluate all these options when you're trying to figure out, where does this data go? What am I doing? Where am I going to put it? Right? What's the deal? So let's go ahead and take a look at a live walkthrough of some of these bad boys, huh? Look at that. Even had a fancy transition. I'm pretty proud of my PowerPoint skills there. Not going to lie. Okay. So as far as tags, custom fields, custom collections. Tags, I think everybody's kind of most familiar with because tags you probably had involved right from your migration to Virtuous on through, okay? Tags, remember that admins can manage tags and create new tags for the organization. Other users may have the ability to add tags or remove tags, to or from a contact. But admins are going to manage and create tags for the organization. Now, as far as this manage tag screen, don't forget, every user can get here. Okay, so if you've created a bunch of tags that have some kind of super secret values you want to kind of hide from some of your users, don't do that, because tags are very open. Okay, everybody can get here and see all of the possible tags. What they can't do is they can't create a tag. They don't get that option. Okay, but they're visible. And when you come in to create a tag, you're going to choose a tag group. Okay, you're going to choose from the existing tag groups. These are not something that you customize, at least not currently. And then you're going to give your tag a unique name. Okay, and you're going to give it a description. Those are the only two requirements for your tag. I can't tell you that description is super important in cases where you have multiple admin users. Also, in case you have any turnover at your organization, so that someone knows, hey, what the heck is this tag for? Because if this just says this is part of my, let's say this is part of my, director's circle, great. I have no idea what that means. So this should tell me, donors who have given $10,000 plus for more than 5 years. That way I know, okay, what's that tag about? What's it for? What does it do? The abbreviation, if you feel like creating an abbreviation, go nuts. You don't need it. The expiration date and the minimal giving amount. These are purely for your own information. Okay, the expiration date does not automatically remove tags from everybody's record or something like that. To do that, you'd have to create a workflow, do that through automation, or do a bulk query. Okay, and the minimal giving amount is also for your information. So here I might say, hey, the minimal giving amount is $10,000, so that I know, okay, that's what that's for. Okay, and of course, don't put punctuation. Even I forget that sometimes. Now the sync configuration here, that's only if you're syncing to MailChimp. Right? Most of you probably don't have that. If you do, you can choose to sync a tag to MailChimp. That's the tag to list sync between Virtuous and MailChimp. Then you can create your tag. There's my director's circle. Okay? And that tells me what's going on with that particular tag. And then, of course, I can add that tag to any of the contacts in the system. I can remove that tag from them. I can have automation apply that tag. And remember, there are two tags in the system, lapsed and pre-lapsed, that are system tags. Okay? So your lapsed and pre-lapsed tags. So you'll see the lapsed donor in here. And you'll notice that that lapsed donor does not have an edit icon, right? Because lapsed donor, again, that's a system tag. That's not one of yours. That's one of ours. Okay? Whoops. So I start to draw, my screen jumped, but there you go. So there is no edit icon for lapsed or for pre-lapsed. Okay, those are going to be added automatically based on someone's giving activity. But the nice thing is that with automation, you can create your own rules for how tags are going to be applied. So if you wanted to have an automation that simply applies the major donor tag or the major donor prospect tag based on someone's giving activity, right? If you want to have it update your top volunteers tag based on how often someone volunteers, you can do that, and you can create those rules through automation to have those tags get applied and removed so that the system manages them and you don't have to actively manage them at all. It's pretty nice. And again, on any one of my contacts, I can add as many tags as I like. Good old Harry and Sally McSample here have a whole mess of tags on here. Giving Tuesday participant. They also know the force. They're pretty great. Okay. Now, the neat thing about tags is you also have the ability to structure them in such a way that you can, kind of create some categories. So for example, I have a few tags that relate to receipting, and you can see I have this tag here that says receipt email. I've also got one that says receipt mail, receipt year-end statement only. Okay. Now the nice thing about that structure, receipt dash whatever the heck, that way I know, hey, email male, that's related specifically to receiving. Gives me context for that tag. And the nice thing is, from a query, we do give you the ability, in addition to some of the operators I think we commonly associate with tags, I can also say tag starts with receipt, right? Get all the contacts who have a receiving tag, okay? So you can use starts with to get tags that are categorized in that way. All right, that's enough about tags. I think we all kind of feel good about tags, but the big thing is I want to talk about some of these custom fields and custom collections. So custom fields, like I mentioned, the nice thing with custom fields is that they're flexible. They can exist in a lot of different places in Virtuous. They can apply to contacts, they can apply to volunteer opportunities, like we said, gifts, events, all over the map. Okay, so again, it's pretty easy. If what you have is a value that doesn't apply to contacts or individuals, and it doesn't really belong in the project structure or the campaign structure, well, then you're probably going to create a custom field, right? If I want a place for that data to live. And when you create your field, you can choose where you want that to live, okay, whatever it is. You can give it a name. We'll talk about groups in a minute. But then you can choose your data type. Now, I'll say, I think so many times, we talked about this a little bit, but I'll see someone create a custom field and they'll just create a text custom field and then away they go. And the thing with that text custom field is, as people fill that in, they're going to fill it in with whatever they want. And if I want to query on that, it's going to be tough, okay? Because someone might phrase something a little bit differently. They might make something plural when it should be singular. I have no idea what's going to get entered into that text custom field. I have no control over it at all. And so for cases where it's truly going to be unique every time, again, maiden name is a good example. Employer is another one. Everyone's going to work for a different employer, what have you. You know, there are valid reasons why I create a text custom field. They exist for a reason. But a lot of times, someone will create a text custom field and then realize shortly thereafter, oh man, querying on this is rough. I should have created a list custom field. Right? I saw this just the other day. Someone built a query and they were looking for everybody who had a certain value in this field. And someone who typed in a value had added an extra space by accident somewhere in there. And so a record didn't get picked up in that query. That's because it was a text custom field. If it had been a list custom field, again, it's pretty standardized at that point because you can create that list custom field and then you can populate that with all the values that you want to add to that field. Okay, then you can query on those pretty easily. Your paragraph custom field, you have this big note that yells at you about it. Paragraph fields are great for things like lead forms. If you want to send someone a form that has like a survey built in that asks them some questions, what is it that drew them to your cause? What is it that interested them in your organization? Why is this so important to them? Those are great uses for that paragraph custom field. That paragraph custom field, like we said earlier, that's going to be for informational purposes. A human being's going to have to read that and digest that and figure out what I do with it. I'm not going to use that in queries. I'm not going to use it in segmentation. There's no way I could pull stuff out of that big block of text. Okay. Now, true-false custom fields, these are pretty handy, especially if you do want to create something similar to a tag, but at an individual level. Meaning, I want to be able to select a number of values. I want to be able to select donor and board member and volunteer. I could create 3 different custom fields that are all true-false for donor, board member, and volunteer. And then they could all be true. 2 of them could be true. I can pick as many as I want. So sometimes if you do want to have that structure and it's not something that relates to contacts, you might have to create more than 1 custom field and you can do that as a true-false field. Dates are great, right? You can create date custom fields and that allows you to use the date query parameters when you query on those values. Before and after and greater than, less than, all of those things. Okay, so having that date custom field is really handy. It ties into the query parameters that I'm going to use. It also does standardize it a little bit because I'm going to have that date picker, right? It's going to make sure that my dates are all consistent. Someone's not typing in December 2nd, something like that. Now the decimal custom fields, these are one that we just changed recently, right? In our most recent release. We came out with the formatting option for the decimal fields so that you can see how you'd like that to be formatted. And then the link custom field, if you want it to be a clickable hyperlink. So, hey, I've got a profile for this person in my volunteer system. I've got a separate system that I use to track that, and I want to have a quick link to take me to view their profile there. Great. I can create a link custom field, put the URL there, and I can go right over. Now, as I create custom fields, I have the ability to group them together. So I do have some custom field groups in here, right? So things like my new subscriber survey or my sponsorship group. That grouping, all that is visual. Okay, that grouping makes it easy for you to see where those custom fields kind of belong. So if I say show secondary and custom fields, it's going to show me all my custom fields here as I'm creating this contact, and then it's going to be a separate section for all my sponsorship custom fields. Okay. It gives me that in a separate grouping just to make it easier to digest. And that's for entering data and also for viewing data on a contact record. Having all of that grouped together makes it much easier on the eyes. Now, I think the groups is what causes some confusion when we talk about custom collections. Okay, custom collections are entirely different. And the thing about custom collections is you want to remember that custom collections can store an ongoing series of entries. Okay, so this custom collection, for example, on tutoring, we've looked at this in a past webinar, actually, on contact individuals. This will show me the grade level, the subject, and then the student name that was being tutored, okay, for that particular individual. And someone could tutor one student. They could tutor 100 students. They could tutor any number of students. And I'll be able to track all of that using that custom collection. And that's really the big thing, right? So for tutoring, I don't have any entries yet. I don't even have to edit the record to add it. I can just click right here. And I can say, okay, they were tutoring someone who was in 8th grade. The subject was math. And the student's name was Peter Parker. In a previous release, we added the ability to say, I want to save and continue, just like with gift entry, because maybe I want to add a few students that they've worked with here. They also tutored a 7th grader, and that was in science, and that was whoever. Switch things up and go with actors. And then they had one more student who was in 9th grade, and they were also learning math, and save and close. And that'll enter all 3 of those in that series. Okay, and I can have as many of those show up as I want, and I can keep on going, and I could edit any one of those individual groupings. Okay, I could delete one of those entries if I wanted to, and I can keep making entries. And remember, you also have the ability to make any one of these fields required in my custom collection. So if I wanted to say, look, grade level and subject is, but I always have to have the student name, well, I can go ahead and do that. Okay, I can make any one of these a required field. So if I want to make student name required, I can do that. That way, anytime I'm entering one of those values, I can't get away with skipping over student name. Okay. Now, as far as querying for custom collections goes, as you're creating your collections, you want to keep querying in mind. You want to optimize for some of your querying. Okay. Because when I query on custom collections, again, there are 2 specific query types: contact collection and individual collection. And when I select that, I'm going to have to specify the collection I'm querying on, specifically querying on the tutoring collection. And then I can query based on any of the fields that are part of that collection or on any of the contact data here related to that. So for example, if I wanted to get everybody who's being tutored in math, I could say that the tutoring subject is math. There we go. And then I can view those results. I've specifically got 3 individuals who are tutoring someone in math. Now this is going to return the individuals who have those collections and then the collections. So you can see William Wells I see here twice because he's tutoring both Peter Parker and Miles Morales in math. Okay, and then it's going to show me the first few fields from that collection. And then from there, I could choose to download a CSV if I want to. I can choose my collection fields. And again, if one individual has multiple entries, I'll see multiple rows for each of those entries for my custom collections. So this is great for things like item purchases, where I don't want that data to show up as a gift in Virtuous, but I want to know someone purchased something. It's great for someone who might be, again, tutoring or taking some other action that I'm not tracking as volunteering necessarily, but I want to know who did it and when and with whom. Right? It could be because people have downloaded certain free resources and I want to keep track of the free resources they've downloaded from me. There are a lot of really neat use cases for custom collections. Okay, and a lot of times those will probably be mission specific. Okay, we could talk about this forever. I did go a little bit longer than I wanted to, but you can tell I feel like this stuff is super important. And again, getting this right is what enables you to then build stronger workflows. Right? And connect with your donors better and connect with the right people that you need and spend less time scratching your head over why did my automation not pick up this person or why did it enroll this person? And instead, you can be spending time talking to those donors and really building stronger relationships with them, right? It drives me crazy when something like data is holding you up from doing so many more important things that you need to do as an organization. Okay. But we have had questions coming in. I want to make sure that we're getting to those without running out of time here. Okay. So we have, will the fiscal year giving comparisons in the queries be expanded to last fiscal plus pass-through, etc.? So right now we've got last fiscal year, we've got second last fiscal year, third last fiscal year giving and gift count. You're right. I don't think we have coverage for plus pass-through statistics for all of those past fiscal year giving statistics. I don't know that we have that on the roadmap right now, but it's certainly something that could be coming in the future. But yeah, right now we do have additional last fiscal year and past fiscal year statistics. That was in this release this week. But yeah, I don't think we have everything for all of the different possible pass-through options. Okay. Is it possible to attach a gift ask to a particular fundraising campaign? And that's an interesting one, right? So remember, the way that you would link something to a campaign is typically through a segment. However, if I'm going to create a gift ask, I'm going to ask William Wells here for something. I can tie my ask to a project. So what project am I asking for support for? But I don't have a segment on here. The only place where I would see the segment is on the gift that is related to this ask. Okay, so when this gets fulfilled with a gift, that gift should have a segment code, and that's going to include all that campaign data and everything else for my reporting. But I don't have a segment tied to my gift ask. Okay. Is there a way to export data from the pipeline to Excel for my accounting team? That's an excellent question. So the pipeline is just a view of all of your gift asks. And that's filtered again by the assigned user, by the date, by whatever other criteria you want to add there on the left. But if I wanted to export gift ask data, I could do that in two ways, either from a gift ask query, or if I'm staying right here, I would do that from the gift asks tab, which is still here. And I can still add the same filter criteria here that I have on the pipeline. So if my filter is for me in the current fiscal year, I could filter for me and for the current fiscal year here, and then I could download that. Okay, so it's on the same page, just not in that same view in terms of exporting that data. So we have a question about the ability to create custom tag groups. Is that on the development roadmap? It is on the development roadmap. It's not in the immediate future, and I want to make sure that that's super clear. So everybody doesn't think, well, why isn't it in the October release? That guy said it was going to be. It is not in the October release, I can tell you that. But it is something that is on the roadmap for the future to give you a little bit more control over some of those tag groups. Okay. We had a question here I'm not sure about, which is about the amount field in a contact query. And I'm not sure about any field that was removed. Not one that I know of being removed from a contact query. By and large, we will try not to remove anything from queries because we don't want to break some of the queries that you have, and we certainly don't want to break any of the ongoing automations that you have. There have been a few cases where we've had to rename fields, and in a recent release, we finally renamed the contact owner field to organization group to bring that in line with everything else in the system. It's organization group everywhere else. We just weren't being consistent. And so we have updated the name of that particular export field, right, to organization group. But that was the only change that we've made there. We've added some fields. For example, the new statistics fields got added to the query. We've added some new query parameters. But yeah, if there was a specific field that you notice was missing or removed from your query, or if you don't see it, I would say the best thing to do would be to reach out to the support team, right? Use that support messenger and have them take a look at that particular query to see what it is that was changed or what it is that was missing or why that query might not be behaving as expected. Okay, looks like that's it for questions for today. That's probably a good thing because I talk too long, as I so often do. But again, if you do have questions, please do go ahead and send them in. You can send them in to the support team as well, right? You've got the little messenger. You'll usually see that in the bottom right. I don't have that enabled in my account here, but of course, if you click contact us, that'll bring it right up. You can send us a message, ask us a question. Again, if it's about your query, or it's about anything else. Go ahead and send that in. Now, as usual, I want to make sure that I invite you all to join us for our next webinar. As you know, we kind of roll these webinars out quarter by quarter, so keep an eye out. We'll have our upcoming webinar announcement coming soon. And the easy way to make sure that you're free is just to mark your calendar. Remember, our webinars are on the third Thursday of every month. Okay, and it's always at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Time. I shouldn't say Eastern Standard. So 3 p.m. Eastern Time, third Thursday of every month, you can join us and learn more about working in Virtuous. Okay, and a very brief quote to leave you with. I always like to leave you guys with a quote from someone smarter than I, and this month I chose to go with a very brief one here from T. Clay Buck. Donors are data. Because I think it's so crucial. Again, we started to think of the data and custom fields as being sort of, it's like a database thing. It's not a fundraising thing. But hey, if you have clean data, that's going to help you understand who your donors are, what they're passionate about, why they're giving to your organization in the first place, and how you can build a better relationship with them. Right? Your donors are data. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today, and I will talk to you again next month. Bye, everybody.